'Cause I am searching, don't need to look outside myself to know that I am whole. And I've been learning, made it through the darkest storms, and I'm coming to my own. And I am worthy of love. I can learn to love myself just because.
Welcome, everybody. Happy Monday. It's a weird Monday. It's a happy Monday. It's a good day to have a good day, right?
It's a good day.
We're back with another episode of Real Talk, and I was just talking with my wonderful co-host, Dinah Simpson, because if you don't know, if you haven't been following me on social media, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are tuning in from. My name is Emma G, and it's been a weird day for me. So we're going to dig into it a little bit, but before we get into that, I'm excited for today's conversation, Dinah.
Yeah, me too. I'm super excited. Molly is fantastic. So she's going to probably be another person where I'm like, where did the time go?
One of the things that I'm really kind of laughing to myself about is because Molly Ruland actually runs a podcasting business.
Yeah.
It's one of the parts of her business, and so I'm hoping that she enjoys this experience.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah,
pressure.
right. So without further ado, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the one, the only, the fabulous Molly Ruland. The crowd goes wild.
Hey, how you doing?
The goddess in flesh. How are you?
Well, living the dream. How about you?
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes the dream's a little bit wonky, but we still live it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I heard that.
So I've been excited about this conversation because obviously you are the founder of Heartcast Media, and you do a plethora of things for the world. But I've known you for way back when you founded One Love Massive, and you've always been this boss babe who's just done things and given things and worked so hard for the community around you. I'm really curious just to kind of dive right in. If you can kind of give people an overview of how you went from One Love Massive to now running such a successful business of Heartcast Media, but still serving in so many ways, but in a very different way. Can you sort of run us through that?
I owned One Love Massive for 22 years in total.
Oh, wow.
I did the first band that I ever booked was Soldiers of Jah Army, which most people know as Soja now.
Right.
And that was they were like teenagers, and they were playing in a strip mall and like a sports bar, and they weren't even old enough to get into the bar.
That's funny.
And they were the band, and they were sneaking in all their 19-year-old friends. That was, the kind of my introduction. And so I did that for a very long time, but I didn't know what I didn't know. Right. And so it looked very successful, but it was not sustainable. And it was a boulder that I was pushing uphill. I had 160 artists, 3-story building, 18 people working for me at one point. And I had no clue what I was doing. And I just hit a point. I wasn't happy anymore. And I just didn't want to do it. And the universe sat me down and forced me to sit down and say, it's time for you to change. And so I Marie Kondo'd my life. And I always joke that I reverse Oprah'd my life. And I said, you got to go and you got to go. And I'm not responsible for anybody, and there's nothing under your seat. Get out of my house, So, and I'm only half kidding because, I was taking care of everybody but myself, what I mean? And lots of those people deserved it, but that didn't mean that I didn't deserve it as well.
Yeah.
And so I changed my life. I sat down. If I'm I just told this story to a friend today. I got really sick and they thought I had cancer, and I was relieved.
Wow.
I was relieved. I was ready. And they told me I didn't have cancer, and then I was disappointed. So I was like, well, I better figure this out because I'm not going anywhere. And I had a team of doctors my whole life at Bethesda Naval who said I wouldn't live 20 years. And I've had a bunch of spinal surgeries, and there's no medical explanation as why I'm even on this planet. And so then I didn't even have cancer. I'm like, golly, I guess someone wants me here as much as I don't want to be here. and I knew how many people loved and cared for me, so I wasn't gonna see myself out.
Right.
And so I thought, well, if I'm gonna be here, then I gotta retool this whole thing, because this ain't it. You know what I mean? I am not happy. I am not fulfilled. I don't feel love. I don't feel value, and I don't feel any of those things. And it's just time to make a change. And so that's what I did. And I had a business partner who lasted about 6 weeks, and she bailed because, you know, people want to be in a startup until you actually have to do the work of a startup. And you're like, oh, this sucks. There's nothing sexy about this at all. Right.
Yeah.
And I panicked because she had the PMP cert and the business degree, and I had IP and equipment and a chip on my shoulder and probably need therapy. You know what I mean? And she left. And so I gave myself a modern day MBA, and I read 130 books on business development over the course of 2 years, like aggressively. And I learned everything I needed to learn, and then implemented it into my business to grow it to where it is now. But it wasn't like this pretty great story of, rising to the level of my confidence. You know what I mean? It was, it was a hard-earned journey for sure, but a worthy one nonetheless.
I love that.
Yeah. In doing all of that, I'm wondering, just because of, my line of work, how did you find time to nourish and to ground yourself? Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of spinal issues, and so the universe gives me lots of ample opportunities to just sit down because I can't do anything else, So no matter how headstrong and stubborn and, willed I am, sometimes I need to ask somebody to help me put my socks on, and that's just the reality of my life, right? So, I'm pretty good at knowing when to hold them and when to fold them, and some days I just can't show up, and so people don't see me, and I go quiet. But, there was no choice. It was like there's two paths here, and for me it was very dramatic and obvious, right? You know what I mean? The cancer, but for a lot of people, it's not this big dramatic moment. It's this slow loss of who you are. It's, slipping into someone else's identity, whether it's your business partner, your husband, whatever, your parent, you know what I mean? Everybody's got their stuff. Mine was a little more dramatic, but I guess when I go down hard, I suppose, but and Emma understands this. I've faced my maker so many times. I have laid in so many hospital beds knowing they were going to operate on my spine, and had the conversation with myself like, yo, are you good? Are you good? Are you if you go tomorrow, are you good? And that's not a conversation that you have with anybody else. It's, for me, it's not about God. It's about like myself. And it's always been like, I'm good, but I don't really feel like I'm done. And when you face it that many times, it makes everything else a lot less important. And I know Emma understands that more than like anybody on this planet, having had 17,000 brain surgeries,
And calm down.
What? I mean, same as far as I'm concerned, so, it's a different path. You know what I mean? You've already seen the worst. You've already been there.
It's interesting. Like, I don't know if you can relate to this, but one of the things that people often say to me when it comes to surgery is like, oh, that's so hard. But it's almost like, where does resilience come from? It comes from that point of, not having another choice, right? You do what you need to do because you need to do it. And then at some point, it's almost like, well, this healthcare thing, making sure that we're looking after ourselves, it's kind of synonymous with wiping your butt when you go to the bathroom. Like, you just kind of have to get on with getting on, right? And I think you mentioned identity. When it comes to that crossover between, in your heart of hearts, you feel, maybe I'm imposing this onto you as to my own ideas of how I feel, and please forgive me if I'm completely wrong, but as we kind of keep on with the keeping on and do what we need to do to survive, to thrive, to be our best versions of ourselves, and the identities that are then thrust upon us by society, how do you balance that as you're every day? Sometimes it feels like it's a battle to go to keep going. And I mean, obviously with Heartcast Media, you've found your niche, you've found your flow, which is beautiful and inspiring, but sometimes we still have those difficult days.
I mean, I just take them, to be honest. Every day is a difficult day these days. Every
Mm.
single one of them. There hasn't, I couldn't tell you when there was a good day. And I don't mean personally. I have lots of great times, the sunshine and my friends and, all of that. But like, every day that you wake up and you see another person murdered, another people ripped from their, more, for me, it's more the people cheering it on, right? So every day, right, is a hard day. But all
Yeah.
we can do is just show up for the people that you love, show up for yourself, and it's like you said, it just is what it is. You just keep on going because, I always say the sun gonna get up with or without you,
That's
you
true.
know, every
Yeah.
day, there it is. And so you can choose to get up with it or you can kind of lay down. And I kind of think that's like a metaphor for life, whether it's business, whether it's like what's happening in our streets right now, whether it's relationships in your own life, you're gonna get out what you put into it. But none of it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know in your business you do a lot of like, I don't know, there's a lot of women I feel as though they're looking up to you. Do you have any advice when those days get really hard? Like for me, I'm always talking about anchoring yourself in a practice like meditation, something that's very grounding, something that you can, self-reflect and show up in the best version of yourself. Like, is there any advice that you can give to, our listeners who are just unclear, uncertain, how do they find, their path like you did?
Well, for me, a lot of it is like survival. Like, you know what I mean? I left home at 17, had my first surgery at 19. So I mean, if I told you guys all the jobs I've had in my life, like, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
When I was 12, my mom sent me to Brooklyn to live with my aunt, and she changed my birth certificate and made me 14. And I worked in a movie theater in Brooklyn, and I was a kid from Falls Church, right? So everything was survival with me. But I think the most important thing is like show up ugly, show up all messed up, be emotional. I don't give a I'm 50. I'm 50 now. I don't care if you think I'm unhinged. Great. Think I'm fat? Perfect. Leave me alone. Think I'm too bossy? Awesome. Get out of my face. I've hit a point I don't care because people are imperfect and people are suffering and people are in pain. And right now, the people that are acting like everything is okay are sociopaths. That might be extreme,
Right.
but I am not a medical professional, so I am allowed to say those things. I really question what is wrong with people that aren't all messed up right now on some level. Because we are all mourning and grieving. We are grieving the loss of parents. We are, whether it's because they actually passed or because they're bootlicking Trumpers, like my father right now. Not angry at all about that. Can you tell? We're grieving the loss of so many, even from the pandemic, right? We're grieving the loss of one another, of companionship, of everything, of the society we know, the democracy we thought, the civility that we thought existed that is really just a shell for white supremacy, low key. Nod and smile, girls, nod and smile, take it all. No, be messy, show up exactly as you are, use your real voice, whether it's big or small. Don't be like anybody else, and your people will find you. Because I have clients that like we might not agree on everything, but they love me for who I am, and I'm this way all the time. I'm the most ridiculous person you will ever meet. And I am this way all the time. I could be in a boardroom. I could be at the mayor's office. I could be in a dive bar in 9th Street Northwest. You know what I'm saying? Like I am this way because it is what it is. And it took a long time to bake this cake. And so embrace that, man. Embrace who you are, and lean into that because the world is a hard place and it's not always going to take care of you. So you have to take care of yourself. And I think for me personally, the worst way or the best way for me to not take care of myself is to not listen to my inner voice.
Yeah.
Like the argument I'm having in my head every day is with my dad, right? And then I just express it in anger on Facebook because he represents, you know what I mean? Everyone represents. It's like a 80s movie. Every time I read a comment online, I'm like envisioning my dad's face. It's like a Happy Gilmore movie or something. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm so angry, because what? You know what I mean? What is happening? So you know what? Show up as you are and embrace it. And life is going to be really complicated and hard for a while, and everything is changing so rapidly. And the best thing that you can do is survive and take care of your friends and yourself and the people that you love and adapt, You know what I mean? And adjust with the current, if this was a year ago, this would be a wildly different conversation, right? I was never like a doomsday person, and I'm still not. I'm just wildly realistic about what's happening. Any one of us could lose our income if we haven't already. Everything is changing. The roles are changing. Where women are, a lot of women are waking up going, oh my God, I have been complicit in all of this and didn't even realize it. Women from 60 to, you know what I mean? There's a massive awakening. And so I think, be a part of it. Be messy. Lean into that. And if there's people in your life that are silencing that part of you, then they're not your people. They're not your people.
I love like how unapologetic you are about your authenticity.
Yeah.
And, obviously in your work, you are somebody who very much scouts out authentic, self. Obviously in my work is elevating voice and helping people to really recognize that their voices have value and that their voices matter from as young as 12. Well, I mean, obviously younger as well, but I just don't work with younger than 12. But one of the things that, I don't know, I think I've always admired about you is that, that saying of the Marianne Williamson quote of like, when you lit your fire, what is it? When you radiate your shine, then you by default empower other people to shine unapologetically. And I feel like you do that with authenticity, right? Like you really stand in your truth, stand in your oneness with self, and you're unapologetically authentic. But there's so many people that I think get scared of the messy and get scared of the judgment and get scared that or just uncomfortable with being even shining the light of themselves,
just
to find out who to recognize who they are, and to understand, okay, actually I did make a mistake, or my voice, I'm in the wrong social circle, or I insert whatever here.
Right.
How, like, have there been moments in your life where you have found that to be the case for yourself? And how do we empower other women specifically, but men as well, to be okay with owning their suck?
Well, I mean, I feel like, it's just really, you have to ask yourself, what are you afraid to lose? What are you afraid to lose? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like that old Saturday Night Live skit where it's like, I'm whatever, Dan Smiley, and people like me. You remember that goes like, people like me and I have friends, I have value. It's like, what do you, oh, it's a Stuart Smalley, I think. Anyway, it's like, what do you have to lose? No, that's right. What do you really have to lose? Like, what are you afraid of? Like, people are going to suddenly realize that I'm bossy, or people are going to suddenly realize that I curse too much, or, you know what I mean? Like, what are you really afraid to lose? And that's an individual question, right? For some people, it might be like they don't want their husband to see them a different way, or maybe it's their job. And a lot of people right now, right? And I think this is relevant in today's world. A lot of people are afraid to speak up because they're afraid to lose what they have, right? Or they have a job and they're about to have a kid, and so they really can't lose that insurance right now, and so they really can't say anything, right? And so like everybody has something to lose, but like I think what we have to actually lose is so much bigger than what you think you have to lose.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you just got to do it anyway, because what's the point of being here? You know what I mean? And if like you swallow yourself every night and you make yourself small over and over and over again, like nothing good comes from that. You feel empty. The people around you don't know who you are. You know what I mean? You're not living up. You're not who you are. So it's like, don't be afraid of that. Be who you are. Your people will find you. My grandmother used to say, for every crooked pot, there's a crooked lid.
Something fits. Something's gotta fit. Yeah.
I love that. I want to be a crooked lid when I grow up.
But in a lot of the work that you do, there's a lot of like storytelling, and you're obviously using your voice to share experiences. Was there a time, like, was there a moment in your life where you're like, my voice matters and I need to tell my story, or I need to voice myself on behalf of other people?
No, I've never really felt like my story mattered. I just have an opinion about everything. And I grew up in I'm just being honest, I don't really feel like my story is super. Now, I have noticed in my life as a woman, when I've gone through things, if I share those with other women, we find a lot of community. So when I was in an abusive relationship, when I, talked to other women, so was I. And I found that to be very healing for myself and other women. So that's why, like, I'm really an open book about all the stuff that I do or happens to me or the trauma that I have, because it's like, we're all going through it. You know what I mean? Like, we're all going through it. So, I completely lost my train of thought because I got distracted by somebody showing up in my apartment. Not to be concerned, but for any reason, it's someone who's supposed to be here, by the way, not like a robber or anything.
Right.
Can you remind me what the beginning of your question was again? I'm so sorry.
No, yeah, just, the voicing yourself and speaking on behalf of other people, like where that came from. The inspiration, I feel like, in the community, right? Like, as women, just having a sense of community is so important, and that's something that you have built over a period of time. So I just wanted to hear where the genesis was of that. Like, was there a shift where you're like, you know what, I really just need to get out there and do this? Because I was afraid to voice myself, and Emma,
I think many of us are.
Yeah.
All of us at some point. I remember when I was doing my TED talk and
Yeah.
trying to figure out what to talk about. Everyone was like, talk about your brain surgery. I'm like, why? Like, that's such a, but to your point, when you speak about the weird, the parts of yourself that you are maybe uncomfortable with, then your tribe finds you.
Yeah, there's a relation. Like,
For sure.
how does that relate to your business and your work?
Well, I think to kind of answer your question, I came from a long line of like Irish people, bartenders, bootleggers, and entertainers, orders. Like, we are big, get in front of the room with a pint of beer in our hand and talk, whether people like it or not. And so that was kind of a very organic thing. I think a lot of it is like anger management or lack thereof. A lot of times when I'm saying what I feel, it's not scripted, it's not a plan, it's not, I want to put myself out there. I never think about what I'm going to say before I say it, which is a problem. I'm not bragging about that. It has caused me a lot of problems in my life. Moving to Costa Rica has been great because it's forced me to actually think about what I have to say, because I'm saying in another language, which has been like the best thing that could have happened to me. Honestly, it's like, shut up sometimes. But, I think, you have nothing to lose, just do it anyway. Right. And I never decided like, I want to get myself out there. I just have things to say, and I don't have a very supportive family. And so I say it to Facebook more than other people. And then other people seem to like it and have followed me along, because I think it's relatable, because we're all like, we can all relate to each other in some kind of way. And I would rather people relate to me for my like ugly parts and my brokenness and my realness than like this fantasy Instagram life that's not even real, so it's like, just be yourself, because the right people will come around and the wrong people won't like it and they'll leave, and that's cool. It's great. It's like a litmus test.
You talk about like, finding, being the ugly and being, being raw and being broken, you mentioned. But one of the things that I have noticed with your social media, for example, especially as you move from DC to Costa Rica, of all places, you need to see your property. It is gorgeous. But it's almost like, I feel from my perspective, and I haven't actually been to visit you yet, which is on my bucket list. It's like you honor the broken, but you also offer redemption in how you live your life. Yes, things are messed up. Yes, things are hurtful. Yes, we're all, struggling in some way, shape, or form. But have you noticed the sunset? Do you see my dog smiling? Like, you offer this really beautiful balance of recognizing the shit and then growing from it, as opposed to just staying stuck there, which I think a lot of people tend to do, especially in business and in leadership. And I think that's a really profound part of what you do and how you lead. Is that something that you sort of have worked on with the billions of books that you've read, or is that something that you've kind of found in yourself as just like, that's just how Molly rolls?
Yeah.
Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute. We can't hear you.
I think it's because I have ADHD, and so like one moment I'm like angry, and the next minute I'm like a bird. Like I literally like I burn so hot. I'm like, that's so pretty. Like I am a mess of humans in a giant sack, and I can't really figure it out, right? But I am always impressed by the world's beauty and try to take moments to just enjoy it. And I find so much solace in my dogs because they're not racist and they didn't vote for Trump, so like I don't have to keep an eye on them. And so it's you have to find the joy. I mean, that's the thing about living in pain. I've been in pain my entire life, and so you have to take those moments, those comfortable moments. You know what I mean? I bought like an inflatable hot tub and like soaking in that for a few minutes. That brings me joy. You know what I mean? Because it feels good. You have to lean into the things that you like. I went to a women's retreat a couple years ago. And we did a lot of breathing and journaling. Who knew how helpful breathing could be? And
as a vocal coach, I'm very aware.
Yeah, hugely valuable. But one of the questions was, where do you feel the most happy and like the most empowered? And I thought about it, and I was like, on a boat. I love boats. I love every kind of boat. I love ferries. I'll get on any boat, anytime, anywhere. I love boats. I love water. I love the ocean. I love lakes. I love it. And so I decided that I only want, everywhere I go, I want to have a view. Like I've been homeless a couple times. I have been through some things. You know what I'm saying? I've driven myself home from epidurals at the hospital in the emergency room. I have been through some things, right? So now I'm at a point in my life where I only want to be where there's a view, right? And so those are the things that really make me happy. And then the rest of it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? And so I've really dialed in on building a life where I get to have those things. I get to go out on, not my boat. I don't have a boat, but I have a lot of friends with boats because I'm smart. And so I go on boats often, and I spend time near water. I'm gonna, like, the sunset is about to be popping. I'm going to go meet a friend for sunset. I put effort into those type of things, and then the rest of it doesn't really matter, right? So I don't care that I'm in a developing country. I don't care that things are harder and different, because those are the things that are important to me, but none of it is scripted. None of it is planned. Honestly, I don't even really like attention. I don't like, it sounds crazy, but I don't really like the attention. Like I've been keep going viral lately. I hate it. I hate it more than anything. I do. It's like people are trying to figure this out. I'm like, fuck. Sorry. I'm like, how do I not go viral? You know what I mean? It's so dysregulating. All these people follow you, which is great because there's a lot of cool, awesome people following me. But then there's all these bots and all these attacks and all this stuff. And it's just like, it's a whole thing that people don't even realize. Like, it's not really comfortable. I'm not somebody who's like, look at me. I'm just somebody who's like, I want to insert my opinion, but I don't necessarily want you to look at me. Like I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like if you look at my content, there's very few selfies. It's always my dogs or the ocean or the view. I'm not really built that way. It's all very uncomfortable for me. So none of it is scripted. None of it is planned. I just don't know how other ways to be. I don't know how to scream from the rooftops right now about how I feel about what's going on. But I also like dogs and sunsets. You know what I mean? So
she's like the podcast version of Banksy.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I want to know more about the business side of you.
Sure.
Yeah, like Heartcast, right? Like, where did the name come from? I'm curious about the name, and then just what's a project you're working on right now that's really exciting for you?
Well, my old company was One Love Massive, so Heartcast Media felt like a very natural fit. Everything I do is with aggressive love. I'm like a pit bull who loves people aggressively. Yes, that is me. And I basically wanted to take what I did for artists and people in that community and do it for businesses and people with bigger budgets, so that I didn't have to work as hard and I can actually get paid and survive and all of those good things. But really, the tagline of the company is listening is the revolution. And I, 7 years ago wasn't as a revolutionary statement as it is right now, but it's never mattered as much as it does right now. What I'm the most proud about is that we do podcast production, podcast booking, and podcast growth. And right now our podcast booking is really going super well. And I'm booking for the director of the ACLU DC. I'm booking for multiple political clients. I have 2 women clients from Iran that were born into the Iranian resistance and have educated me greatly on what is happening there. I'm actually going to do another interview this week with one of them about what's happening in Iran right now. And those are the things that I'm very proud of, because like I'm not an educated woman. I am not, there's a lot of things that I don't know about. And so I appreciate the opportunity to learn and to use my platform to get the message out, because there's a lot of similarities, between the United States and Iran and all of these things. So even though I'm in Costa Rica and I'm not out in the streets protesting, I am giving back by, getting, Monica Hopkins from the ACLU DC booked on great podcasts and in front of lots of people to help spread the message. And I'm super proud of that for sure.
That's awesome. I love that you've mentioned culture multiple times throughout this entire conversation. I had no idea that you're working so closely with Iranian women. And of course, I'm a quarter Iranian. I don't know if you knew this. Surprise! That's where my maiden last name came from. But it's interesting because, I feel like so I'm originally from New Zealand. And growing up in New Zealand, I thought that I was pretty woke when it comes to knowing about cultural diversity. However, when I moved here, I felt like I went from being 26 to 17. I knew nothing about cultural diversity. And now I live in the States, especially in a place like DC, everybody's so rich in culture and history and story and life, lifeblood. And I love that you have taken those conversations and are now, coming from another level of cultural diversity in Costa Rica, and sort of really amplifying the stories of so many people. And I'm so I just want to honor you, because I think that's something that I wish we all did. I've had so many conversations with people who do not look like me, do not think the same way that I think, do not agree on the same things that I agree on. But we've always found some kind of common ground. And from there, it's like you plant the mustard seed to get biblical on it, right? But, when you can do that, who knows what can happen. I so honor the work that you do.
Yeah. And
Thank
I think
you.
the wonderful part is, like you said, it's the listening, giving a space for people to tell their stories so that others can listen and hopefully shift their perspective.
Yeah, we learn, it's a reciprocal learning. And I think, it's a very, what's the saying? Like, when you stop growing, you're dying. Who wants to do? Anyways, we could go on for hours and hours and hours. And of course, you picked it. We have run out of time.
Already. Oh gosh, I have so many more questions.
I know. And we can reconvene this. But if you do want to find out more about Molly Ruland, please check out heartcastmedia.com, or in American. I don't know, Molly, if you want to say that in your American accent, because
My American accent, I don't know what that is.
Heartcast Media.
Heartcast Media.
I say, Heartcast.
I like the way she says it.
I like your version better. It's like I like how the Ticos say my name better than I say my own name here.
I love it. I love it.
Molly.
But yes, check out Heartcast Media. Until we meet again, Molly, do you have any final words of encouragement, enrichment, and elevation?
Yes.
Well, I don't know about elevation, but love the people that you love real hard, and stick together through these times, and find that common ground and take care of each other. We'll get through this. I think there's a big shift. I think it was a long time coming. So love yourself. Love the people that you love, hard, and look to the future. Everything is going to be different. Nothing is going to be the way that we knew it was. So be prepared to change, be prepared to grieve a lot of things, and be who you want to be.
Yes, ma'am.
Be who you want to be.
Love that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay,
Thank you,
friends.
lady.
Until next week, be good, be kind, spread love like it's gone out of fashion, love harder. You heard it from the woman herself.
Yes.
Love hard. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Oh.
'Cause I am searching, don't need to look outside myself to know that I am whole. And I've been learning, made it through the darkest storms, and I'm coming to my own. And I am worthy of love. I can learn to love myself just because.